So the thing that I found the most difficult, I wanted to be a good kid. We were in every other house that we went to. My brother and sister and I were impeccably behaved. We were really good kids. And so we were always trying to do the right thing. Whatever Dad wanted us to do, we were trying to do that. We were all striving to not get hit, and not get hurt or shamed or ridiculed or whatever his response was going to be. So he had so many contradictory moods that you would never know from one day to the next. You could do something one day, and then the very next day, that thing would make him irate, and so often you would be doing things thinking, this is going to get me a positive feedback. You'd be seeking that positive feedback. And so I remember this instance of we often had days of working in the yard, and everyone had come back and had a shower and was sitting down and watching a David Attenborough documentary, and it was like this really awesome family moment. And I thought, I'm going to make Mum and Dad a cup of coffee to try and get a little praise and feedback, and I'm being a good girl. So I went in and get the Nescafe out, and I make a cup of coffee, and I'm being really careful not to spill it because I know Dad hates me spilling the coffee. And I'm carrying it really slowly so I don't spill it. And I can feel Dad's stare on me. And it's really important, when you feel Dad's stare on you, that you look at what that stare might mean. And so I look up, and he's looking at me with such rage that I'm like, I don't have any idea what I could possibly be doing wrong. I haven't spilled any. I'm looking behind me. I haven't spilled anything. And he's just so enraged by my tentativeness that he gets up, comes behind me, grabs me by and frog marches me, walking like this, you're walking over to a table, and I'm spilling the coffee all over myself, and it's burning hot, and I'm crying because it was such a shock out of the blue. Why is this getting me in trouble? And on reflection actually from my own response to sometimes my children's fumbling, because we were never allowed to make mistakes. If you did something the first time, you better do it perfectly. You're trying to hold a peeler in your hand for the first time, and peelers, they're a thing, they're a skill, you've got to master, get that little blade right. But it would just infuriate Dad that we were incompetent at it. And so he'd end up with his hand crushing, peel it like this, peel it, and you're just like, oh my God, it's my first time ever trying something. And I think on reflection, because I notice when my kids are doing stuff, I just have to look away. I'm just going to look over there, because I cannot literally watch you doing that, because it is making me feel so anxious that you are fumbling around so much. And that is one of the things that is I have to constantly just go, look away. I'm saying, look away. Don't control them. Just look away. Don't look at them, and hope that they're not hurting themselves. But better than me trying to get really controlling, because it definitely evokes that in me. And I think on reflection, because my dad had a real thing with incompetence. And I feel like he felt that a lot of the people who were his superiors in the army were incompetent, and they put people's lives unnecessarily at risk. We never had these direct conversations, but I actually, on reflection, think that's the case. And I think when you look at traumatic guilt, which is why did I survive and he didn't, it was, I'm sure, competence. That feeling of I was more competent, or I, did that better, or whatever. And that feels like the way that you got through and survived. And so I imagine incompetence would be a massive trigger. And so I understand that from his perspective, but from my perspective, it made me feel like I got everything wrong. There was something wrong with me. I was never good enough. Nothing I ever did ever met his expectation. And, I still have very high expectations of myself beyond what is probably helpful.
It's a tough one because control in itself, there's a utility to control. So, for example, when you feel like you have a lack of control, and let's think about lockdowns, for example, and where most of the control of what you can and cannot do is kind of taken away from you. Often in therapy, it's about what can you actually control in your life, and what can you develop to organize a routine around that if you feel like you've lost control. And that feeds back into perfectionism a lot. I don't think you mentioned the word perfect, but that can come out. That perfectionism, there's so much of a high anxiety when yours or other people's standards are not met because of the bomb that's going to go off just in case they don't get met. It's really tough. So what is it? Let's bring it back to what can I control?
Mm.
And then when it becomes coercive control, and to use like a formal term, for those who don't know what coercive control is, just trying to control other people, that's when it becomes really difficult. So it's not uncommon, is it, Ruth, that you would try to control what little you have in control of? You'd started to make lists of all the things that would upset Dad, and the list just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and every day, like you said, things will change. So there was a total lack of control. And I think at the root of trauma is that inescapability and lack of control.
Yeah, that when I was writing out that list, it was actually just a fury at his hypocrisy. It's like, okay, let me try and do what you're asking of me. Okay, don't be lazy, but don't make any noise. Don't lie in your bed, but don't read a book. Go outside, but don't make them. Like there's no matter what you did, it was wrong. So some days it's like, oh, be fun. When I was a kid, I had so much fun. You kids are just like, lumps, because we're all just standing there going, I don't know what to do. I'm going to get in trouble. And so then you try and be fun. I had this instance where my brother and I, we thought we were playing with some lead pencil, and we ended up putting lead pencil all over our face. And we thought, oh, madcap fool, this is the stuff that Dad loves. Just this is us. And we ran down to him, and he was talking to Mum, and we just ran up and went, oh, look at us, because we had lead pencil all over our face. And he just turned around and punched us both. And we all just went, oh, well, that didn't work, did it? And it was those moments when you're like, I was literally trying to get the positive. It just made you go, I have no idea what the hell you want from me, because everything I seem to do feels like it pisses you off.
Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you learned something or took away some really practical strategies to just consider in the rest of your week. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe and like and comment on this video, share your thoughts, because it really does help the channel out. And what I'd like to invite you guys to do is, if you're interested in people sharing papers and research or to the wider community, I've teamed up with academia, and they will be giving you a 50% discount on their premium membership, where you can get access to my courses, including the stress, anxiety and trauma course that I've put together. I'll link it into the description below, but I look forward to joining you in our next video. Until then, have an awesome day.